Welcome, everybody, to tonight's meeting. Ms. Sorr, could you please do roll call?
Mr. Casey?
Present.
Mr. Duncan?
Present.
Mr. Gallardi?
Present.
Mr. Martinelli?
Here.
Mr. McAndrew?
Present.
Mr. Gillespie?
Present.
Dr. Malone?
Here.
Mr. Sheridan?
Here.
Mr. McGuigan? 8 present, 1 absent.
First business of order is we have communications to the board from Director Donahue.
I was asked by President McGuigan to read a letter on their behalf. It starts off, after much self-reflection and soul-searching, I'm writing this letter to inform the good citizens of the city of Scranton that effective immediately, I am resigning my position from the school board. First and foremost, I wish to thank the people of Scranton who placed their trust and confidence in me. I also want to thank most of the central office staff. Unfortunately, many now work in an atmosphere that has become extremely hostile and not at all conducive to success. A special thank you to Board Secretary Ms. Ginny Orr, a professional in the truest sense of the word. Alas, all who operate in this place are not interested in what is right and good for our students. As my mother often said, a few bad apples spoiled the bushel. Just a few short months ago, I read a letter regarding the constant interference of certain board members in the daily operations of the district. Unfortunately, little has changed since that May meeting. The majority of the board members seem content to operate outside the confines of the Sunshine Act. More importantly, several board members seem to blindly follow the questionable legal advice of the solicitor, which further diminishes the reputation of the board as a whole. This cannot nor should not be tolerated. These individuals, in conjunction with the solicitor, continue to engage in these destructive practices. They are responsible for the systematic filleting of the central office staff. In time, I'm sure the shortcomings of this solicitor will continue to reveal themselves. What is even more pathetic is that these board members have abdicated any sense of independent thought or reasoning. Once again, instead of creating a positive environment and following the established chain of command, the majority board members continue to operate behind the scenes in a manner that negates protocol. In closing, I hope the taxpayers and business owners of this city sit up and take notice of what is happening. We need to elect board members who will set policy, not change or ignore it, because it fails to suit their own personal agendas. Signed, Kathleen McGuigan, 9/15/14.
Thank you, Mr. Donahue. Next up, we have visiting delegations. And I apologize if I don't get your name right. Is it Marie Shoemaker? Schumacher, I apologize.
I'd just like to express my displeasure as a taxpayer of this city with the way you're operating. Suggest you need to, your first step should be to, I realize this is a special meeting, it's one purpose only, but I don't think you've done right by the citizens, and I think you should hire a new solicitor, and I'm disappointed that Mr. McGuigan has decided to resign and not stick with it. And this whole thing, does the public even have an opportunity to review the contract you have already put into effect prematurely? I mean, the way you people are operating is just pitiful. I don't know what else to say, but it's got to stop, or hopefully there'll be a lawsuit. And I mean, I'm losing faith in our teachers. I hear what they say about what the current governor has done to spending for basic education, and if they're not able to communicate and understand that the former Governor Rendell used the shovel-ready money that was supposed to be used for the stimulus for shovel-ready projects and actually reduced the amount of funding from the general operating fund for 2 years in a row and bumped it up sky high with the stimulus money, and then it ran out and he handed the reins over to someone else. And if that's not understandable or in such a manner that the truth can be communicated, I have lost faith in our teachers as well. This state, the Commonwealth, pays $2,900 more per pupil than the average national state. And I'm quite sure that our Scranton School District scores are not anywhere near that percentage over what the national averages are. They too are pathetic. And why you're even going with a one-year contract, why you chose to put it into effect in a paycheck before it had been properly reviewed, voted on. You can always do retroactive, but why you are not going for a multi-year so we don't do this year after year. If the contract calls for how much, what is the increase in pay?
1.75%.
1.75.
And how much are the members contributing to any other funds such as their own health?
We are the only school district whose teachers contribute to their health care
And how much is that
in northeastern
increase?
Pennsylvania.
How much is that increase?
It has, this contract, we have not, because of very diligent efforts by this board and our administrators in work with Blue Cross Blue Shield, we have not had a substantive increase in 3 years because of the work that we did.
We're having, but there is an increase, correct?
No,
And
no,
you're-
no,
No increase.
no, there's no increase.
That's substantive.
There's been no increase.
No
in healthcare.
increase.
There would be no
In fact,
increase
in fact, in 3 years, in fact, our healthcare costs, through the cooperative effort that we entered into 3 years ago in our last collective bargaining agreement, our healthcare costs have not moved in 3 years, probably saving the district $4.5, maybe $5 million in that period of time. I can tell you that our healthcare costs are flat this year. The last time that I spoke to our healthcare consultant, which was last week, we were about $300,000 ahead. When I say ahead, less than what we had paid last year. Now, there's several months left in the year. We don't know where we'll be at the end of the year, but that's where we are at this point in the year. So we're actually below our projected and budgeted cost from last year.
Well, that's good, but how much, then where is the money going? You've already gone and asked for more money than you're allotted.
Where is what?
Stipend from you've already gone into the Department of Education and asked to go above the,
We asked for permission to, we haven't asked.
We haven't
for
done it.
That hasn't been
We
done.
haven't done it.
and did you ask for a specific amount?
No.
Yeah.
No, that hasn't.
We have.
Well, actually, there's a
Percentage.
ceiling. There's a ceiling.
specific
No,
percentage
But,
It was,
above the cap.
yeah,
it was $1 million for
Yeah.
pension increases and then a $1.2 million
yeah.
request for special education. So the total
Yeah.
request was $2.2 million.
But that hasn't been,
Pat, am I right on those?
2.6 maybe.
It was all based
2.6.
on a calculation
Right.
of your increases over the course of the time span. So exactly what if we will be approved for, or what we will be approved for, is yet to be determined.
But there was a total number we had asked for in the application,
Right.
correct?
It's submitted with increases and they calculate what it is.
But all I'm saying is that the board hasn't authorized that.
No, correct.
Well, again, I don't believe you should be doing a one-year contract. I don't know what the teachers have done to earn this, quite frankly, with the scores. I know things are tough, but something's got to change. Between the city and the school board, you're going to have an empty city. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Schumacher.
If I could, Mr. President, I would just note for the record that this contract and the last contract are the least expensive contracts this district has had in decades. And I'm proud of the fact that we were able to negotiate and/or through fact-finding, because the teachers were asking for a higher amount, significantly higher than what the fact finder awarded. So I am proud of the fact that we were able to achieve that in this environment, and it compares very favorably to the other districts in this area. As far as the confusion surrounding the contract, I think that there's a lot of people that don't understand that the vote for fact-finding was a vote for a contract. If you read the Scranton Times last Wednesday, there was an article in there about Abington Heights. Abington Heights had gone to fact-finding. It had been rejected, and then they went to a mediator who tweaked the fact-finding report, but just looked at those issues that were outstanding in the Abington Heights School District. And that article indicated that if the mediator's tweaks were approved, that would be a contract. If you look at the fact-finding law and the code in Section 905, Section 905 indicates that it's incumbent upon the parties to identify the outstanding issues that they have not agreed to, and to present those to the fact finder, which was what was done. The fact finder issued a report on those issues. Both parties agreed to it. That's an offer and acceptance. That's basic contract law. That's a contract. If you look at the teacher's ballot, I have it right here. This is the ballot that the teachers voted on. I accept the fact finder's report, and I understand that by so doing, I am voting to ratify a one-year SFT, SFD, SSD, Scranton School District, collective bargaining agreement for the years 14-15. This vote is contingent upon the acceptance of the same by the Scranton School Board of Directors. Now that eventually has to, of course, be put down into a document. It's the same way it's done essentially every year when the board votes to accept the contract, and then it's drafted and ultimately signed. That's what occurred here. The only difference is, I think it's the first time it was ever ratified by fact-finding as opposed to negotiation. And so that led to some confusion. I hope everyone understands that. I'm sorry that happened, but that's the law. Thank you.
If I could add something to Mr. Solicitor Minora's comments, Mr. Martinelli and I both remember when we had a fact finder settled agreement, I believe in was it 72, around there? And again, by voting to accept the fact finder, I think it was 72. I could be mistaken, but it was in that early time, and it was at the Elks Club when we voted, and that constituted a contract for us then, and it constitutes a contract now. To answer Mrs. Schumacher's, why are we negotiating a one-year contract? We negotiated a one-year contract to ensure that our children will have an uninterrupted year in classrooms with instruction by professional, certified teachers. We'll be happy to come back and do this again as the climate hopefully gets better, as economic terms change. Right now, we could not negotiate a 3-year contract and come to an agreement. But we could agree on one, and it means no interruptions for our children. It means absolutely no threat of it. Some of our neighboring districts are looking at that. It affects scheduling. It affects all kinds of plans, college applications for seniors, et cetera, et cetera. We don't have that to deal with this year because we negotiated a one-year contract. It's not optimum, trust me, and I understand your feelings about that. It's not optimum. We would much rather have a 3-year contract here, but that was the best we could do with our partners in collective bargaining, Scranton Federation of Teachers, to ensure a solid, normally conducted school year for our children. Thank you for your question.
Okay, next up, Ms. Boland.
Thank you, Mr. McKendrick. I would like to also express some sentiments that I feel about a one-year contract. Obviously, the Scranton Federation of Teachers never wants a one-year contract. When we went into fact-finding, our fact-finder in this very room said that was what he was going to recommend. Did we want a one-year contract? No. As I stated to Mr. Minor, it's not because I don't like the man, but I don't want dealing with him year after year after year to negotiate a collective bargaining agreement. If anybody thinks that's a great fun activity, it most certainly is not. And it takes hours and hours of my life and the other people I work with in our office to put all these documents together over and over again. As far as the Scranton Federation of Teachers collective bargaining agreements, I would like to stipulate here this evening for everybody in this room, our contracts are online and they have been for about 10 years. We're hiding nothing from the public because we're proud of our collective bargaining agreements, and I'm proud of them since 1969. Why? Because every article in there just does not benefit a teacher or a paraprofessional. Every one of those articles benefits the children in this town. We have class size in this town of 27 and 28. If you drive 20 minutes up to Abington, the parents cry if there are 24 kids in a class, and they demand that the classes be reduced in size. If you think that doesn't affect the child's test scores Well, think again, yes, it does. As far as Governor Corbett is concerned, he's the only governor of a tax state like ours with gas coming out of the ground that hasn't seen approval to tax that. Extraction tax. Texas, Oklahoma, all of the other states have a tax extraction, and we don't. And maybe if some people would open their eyes to that, we wouldn't be standing here where we are tonight. Governor Corbett is a problem. He most certainly is. And if Mr. Rendell put money into education, then he was pretty smart to do it. Because if there's something more important than educating the students in the state of Pennsylvania, I don't know what that something is. We're not a state that should be taking away from the students in the state of Pennsylvania. Across this state, there are classrooms in our state, in Pennsylvania, where there are 48 students. 48 students in a class. No music, no art, no phys ed. One of the districts up the road just cut music out of their schedule. Do you know the correlation between the subject of music and reading and mathematics? If not, look it up. It's a tremendous correlation. And now we're being told somebody is suggesting that Mr. Corbett is doing the right thing. Most certainly he is not. He's sacrificing the students in this state. And as for the test scores in Scranton, Pennsylvania, how did we get $15 million worth of scholarships at Scranton High School if the teachers in this city aren't doing their job? And a significantly close number to that at West Scranton High School. The Scranton Federation of Teachers gives out scholarships every single year to seniors in this district. Why? Because those students deserve it. Other members of our city and county distribute scholarships to our high school seniors. Why? Because those students deserve those scholarships. And why is it that a few years ago, the #1 student over there at Scranton High School was a boy I taught at Whittier Elementary School. First in his class, winner of a Kent Scholarship. He could name his ticket anywhere in the country, full ride. He's working on his PhD in physics. Really? We're not doing our job? I take issue with that, Mr. Schumacher. I take issue with that greatly. I will defend my teachers and my students in this district against anybody else. This is an urban school district with 38 languages. Every single day of the year, my teachers get students in their classrooms who do not speak one word of English. And I'm not talking about Hispanic children. I'm talking about children from everywhere. One of the principals asked me one day if I could talk to the little boy she was talking to. And I said, what language does he speak? She said, I think he speaks Russian. So I spoke to him in Russian. Where did I learn Russian? Over there at Scranton Central High School, that's where. And you know what? I've been using it and I never figured I'd use Russian in this town. But I do use it regularly. The little boy didn't come from Russia, he came from Turkey. Pretty close, but not exact. Does anybody out there think that you could go into a classroom and speak to all those children, 27, 28 kids, when very many of them speak absolutely no English, not a word? And then they have to take the same test as the neighboring school district that has none of those issues? Oh, come on. Nobody in the world can be that naive. And $1.75 in this climate is pretty reasonable for teachers who do this thing every single day of the week. For anybody to suggest, including Jimmy Olsen, cub reporter at the Scranton Times, that thinks for 1 second he's Gene Roddenberry, he should think again. Because I think he should be absorbed into the hive. I think Jean-Luc Picard would throw him off the Enterprise, and rightfully so. So, I do not step back and say, oh my gosh, we have a 1-year contract. Indeed, we have a 1-year time period to get these squared away, hopefully in Harrisburg, So somebody, somewhere in this state says, the kids in Pennsylvania deserve a quality education, and we've got to make sure we get that done. And they've got to give us the money to do it. And I hope everybody in this room and everybody in Lackawanna County on November goes out there and tells this state exactly what we expect. And as for my contracts, if you sign them tonight, I'm thrilled. I would like to get them to the printer. And again, I reiterate, as soon as we can get this done, this new contract will be online also. We hide nothing in my union. Our door is open. If anybody wants to argue with me, they can come in. If anybody wants to tell us something going on in Scranton, Pennsylvania, or in education, I welcome the challenge. But for anybody in this room to suggest that Corbett is doing all he can for education, oh, no, he's not. He's doing everything in his power, including the tax on early childhood, 3 and 4-year-olds, to throw it out the door. Shame on Corbett and shame on anybody that sticks up for him. No, not listening to that. Thank you for your kind attention.
Thank you, Ms.
Thank you, Ms. Boland. Next would be Mr. Kevin Kays.
Thank you for the opportunity. I think Ms. Boland
Covered everything?
summed it all of my sentiments up very well. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. President, I'd like to address something before we move on. I'd like to wish President McGuigan well in her future, but I do feel I have to bring this up and clear the air. Mr. President, I hope in the last week, in the last few months, we've had several problems, but in the last week, we talked about the Scranton Times got an article that I signed a contract, which I did not sign the contract, and Mr. Gaynor would verify it. I asked that how Ms. McGuigan got the source of how I signed that contract, and Bill, I believe that nobody came to you and asked if I signed it or anything?
I did have a call from Sarah asking if you did, and I told her you didn't.
But from our president at that time. The only thing I'm trying to say, Mr. President, I hope from tonight moving forward, because it was defaming to me to be in the paper at that time. I'm willing to sign our contract with every other director as we read it tonight and we pass it. But at that time, it was defaming, and with no source of fact that I signed that contract. My name was placed in the paper, and I feel that wasn't right. So I'm asking you, as the new acting president, that we all now move forward and not try to move this whole district forward and work together and try to have facts before we put things in the paper on each other or on any business in this district. And this way it won't go against any director or any employee in this district without having facts. That's all I'm asking, is that we look, if we have facts, then we can act, but it's without it. I appreciate it if you would work with us now as the new acting president.
Okay.
And I think we can move forward.
All right, I understand your concerns. We're kind of getting away from, but I understand. Thank you.
Okay, we were just talking on the contract.
I understand.
And that's what I wanted to bring it out. Okay.
Thank you very much,
Before we voted on it.
Director Sheridan. Director Oleski, 10H1, please.
Yes.
Resolution.
Members of the Board of School Directors of the City of Scranton. The Labor Relations Committee recommends the following resolution for your approval. Whereas the Labor Relations Committee recommends that the collective bargaining agreement with the paraprofessionals and the Scranton Federation of Teachers effective September 1st, 2014 through August 31st, 2015 be ratified on the terms of the conditions set forth in the attachment, in conjunction with the existing articles, recognizing that the same may contain common errors, grammatical mistakes, all in which will be identified, respectively submitted.
Second.
Roll call, Ms. Orr?
On
On the question, I'm sorry, on the question?
On your question, Mr. President, I would like to just start out by saying that I think our teachers do a wonderful job day in and day out in this district. I want to personally thank you for the service that you give to these students. I also personally believe that across the board, teacher salaries should be a lot higher than they are today. But at the same time, that's a decision that needs to be made on either the federal or state level in order for them to allocate the proper resources to the school districts to fund those increases. Our job as school directors is to make responsible financial decisions based on the resources that are actually at our disposal. Not a hope that there will be an increase in any state or federal allocations. That is why I'll be voting against these contracts, because we simply don't have the resources to fund this increase in salaries. Without factoring in an increase in salaries, our projected deficit for 2015 will be just over $4.8 million. By approving these contracts, our deficit will increase by another $2.8 million to a whopping $7.6 million. In order for this board to close a deficit of that size in the next 3 months, given that between 84 and 85% of our budget is made up of salaries and benefits, there will have to be a drastic tax increase as well as severe cuts to programs and staff, which I don't want to see happen. I know there are members of this board that will never vote to raise taxes, and without any tax increases, the cuts that will be needed to balance our budget will without a doubt be extremely severe. So those board members that vote for this contract and then will continue to hold their ground not to raise taxes, better be prepared to publicly state which programs and staff they are prepared to cut. If this contract is approved, the effects of this irresponsible decision will not only be felt by the taxpayers of this city, but on the children of this city, who we are all responsible for educating. Thank you.
Anyone else on the question?
Yes, on the question. I just want to say, and I don't mean to bring it up again, but I was quoted in the paper of signing a contract in which I did not read. I just want to make it clear that I did read the contract before putting my signature on it. I would never put a signature on anything that I have not read first. So I have read that contract prior to signing that evening. I just want that clear to the public. I think it's only fair for them to know, since I was quoted, and I never spoke to the Times and told them I did not sign it, that I did not read the contract. I have read the contract prior to signing that paper that evening.
And similarly, I was never contacted. Not that there wasn't an attempt made, there was. I just couldn't get to it. But again, I would not have signed that contract last Monday night in this room had I not been fully aware and completely in command of all of the changes that were made. And I had them. I asked for them. Solicitor Menora gave them to me. I had been part of the entire process updates from April 5th, 2013 to last July 29th. I mean, if you want to talk about them, we can talk about them at length. I don't even need notes. But I was completely aware of everything in that contract when I signed it last Monday night. The editorial page on Friday morning called this horrid government. And I contend that what we witnessed was horrid journalism, because the editor doubled down on everything that was errant when he had every opportunity to research or corroborate what was told them by the former chairperson, Mrs. McGuigan. That's what it is.
Every committee, and I agree, every committee that I've been on, I wholeheartedly put 110% on it. I am the chairman. I am the committee person for Labor and Relations. Why would I not read it? That's my committee. So why would I not? I mean, I actually had it with me that evening. So if I was asked, I could have produced it, but I was never asked. But yet it stated that I signed something that I was unaware of, which is absolutely not true.
And Carol, to add to that, it's been online for
Well, the existing contract's been online forever.
existing contract, and we all had a copy of the new one, and we had an opportunity long before now to read it.
Good. I'd like to go on record and say that the first time I received any copy of this contract was Wednesday afternoon.
But I asked for it, Kyle. That's why this is my committee.
Well, that's
That's my committee.
If you don't
Hal,
ask
didn't
for
we
it,
all
you
have a
don't
copy
receive
of the
it.
fact finder when it came out?
I had a copy of the fact finding, I didn't have a copy of the.
Which is the contents of the contract, which would be basically the contents.
Well, when asked to sign the contract in full, I didn't read the contract in full. That's why I denied to sign the contract.
but the paper had stated
That
that
was my position.
Director McAndrew did not sign it, which is rightfully so,
Well,
because
because-
he had not read it.
I did not see it.
Correct, but
I
I
won't-
didn't, so
let me
why am I
clarify,
doing
too.
something wrong? Like,
I wouldn't sign anything my wife put in front of me without reading it,
I agree.
let alone the solicitor, so
I agree.
I did
Well,
not see
I
it.
had it with me.
Or was
I mean,
approached.
if anybody asked me, I could have produced it. I agree with you. I would not sign anything unless I've read it. But I did read it, and so I signed it. Like you quoted that you would not sign it because you had not read it. Well, I did. There was nothing wrong with what I'd done.
Well, why don't we
I
just
signed
vote, why don't we
something
just
that I
vote on it
read.
now?
Let's
All
vote
right.
on it. Let's vote on it.
Okay, anybody else? I hope not, right?
No.
Mrs. Orr, roll call, please.
Mr. Casey?
Yes.
Mr. Donahue?
No.
Mr. Dewey?
Yes?
Mr. Martinelli?
Yes.
Mr. McAndrew?
Yes.
Mrs. Oleski?
Yes.
Director Iwan?
Yes.
Mr. Sheridan?
Yes.
7 affirmative, 1 negative, motion passed.
Can we have a motion for adjournment?
Motion to adjourn?
Thank you. Mrs. Orr, roll call, please. Oh, sorry. Kyle, let's get going here.
Mr. Casey?
Present.
Mr. Donahue?
Present.
Mr. Dewey?
Present.
Mr. Martinelli?
Here.
Mr. McAndrew?
Present?
Mrs. Oleski?
Present.
Director Iwan? Mr. Sheridan?
Here.
8 present.
Any visiting delegations? Okay, then on to resolutions. Director Dewahi, 10D1, please.
D1, to the members of the Board of School Directors of the City of Scranton, it is the recommendation of the Education Committee that the following resolution is approved. Whereas the board hiring policy for administrators is such that a single board member sits in the final administrative hearing committee and that this board member shall rotate turns by alphabetical order. Whereas the tabulation of the final scores in the interview shall be done by the board secretary and the manager of personnel services in full view of the 5 members of the final interview committee, and all members of the committee shall sign that they agree with the tabulation, which shall be added, not averaged, respectfully submitted.
On the question? Question none, roll call, please.
Mr. Casey?
Yes.
Mr. Donahue?
Yes.
Mr. Dewey?
Yes.
Mr. Martinelli?
Yes.
Mr. McAndrew?
Yes.
Mrs. Oleski?
Yes.
Director Iwan?
Yes.
Mr. Sheridan?
Yes.
8 affirmative.
Next up, Director Dewahi, could you please read the next 10I1, please?
To the members of the Board of Directors of the City of Scranton, it is the recommendation of the Policy Committee that the following resolution is approved. Whereas the board has allowed candidates for national and statewide offices to speak at school facilities in the past, such as President Barack Obama, President William Clinton, Hillary Clinton, and Kathleen Kane, to name a few, and be it resolved that the board deems it appropriate use at this time and shall allow Tom Wolf to speak at Scranton High School, respectfully submitted.
Second.
On the question?
On the question, yep, go.
On the question, I mean, is this resolution just to allow Tom Wolf, or is this a resolution to amend the policy committee, or that policy down the road?
As I take it, this is just for Tom Wolf's appearance in, hopefully in October. I would like, on the question, Director Donahue, to do what you just spoke of, and that is to actually amend the policy and with specific limitations and criteria for use. I think that would be best for the board to pursue it that way. I do. But this, I believe, is as it's written, is for this particular instance.
Okay.
I think,
Well,
the reason I said that is because I think in order for us to do that, we should have a policy committee meeting where that gets discussed openly and in detail.
Okay. If that's the case, then I'd like to try to maybe add an amendment from the floor that just states after the last sentence that as long as they cover costs and it does not interfere
Now,
with the
It
school
should
day.
include,
Right.
yeah.
It should not significantly or any way disrupt the school day.
Yeah.
Right.
That's good. That's
It's a friendly amendment, yes. We have to vote on that?
Under the question, even though I had nothing to do with putting this together to bring Mr. Wolf in, I think it's a great thing, it's an honor. But I will have to be abstained from this vote because I am the chairman of the Democratic Party, and I'll have to abstain.
Thank you.
Generally, when they come in, there's an agreement, and within the agreement, it does cover those costs and so on, but that's an appropriate amendment.
It's appropriate.
I just wanted to point that out.
So,
Amendment, or
we need a second on the amendment.
I'll second it.
How about on the question for that?
Friendly amendment.
A friendly amendment? None heard, Mrs. Orr, roll call?
Mr. Donahue?
Abstain.
Mr. Dwyer?
Yes.
Mr. Martinelli?
Yes.
Mr. McAndrew?
Yes.
Mrs. Oleski?
Yes.
Dr. Rowan?
Yes.
Mr. Sheridan?
Abstain.
Mr. Casey?
Yes.
6 affirmative, 2 abstentions, motion passes.
Okay, now on the resolution itself. Roll call?
Mr. Dwyer?
Yes.
Mr. Martinelli?
Yes.
Mr. McAndrew?
Yes.
Mrs. Oleski?
Yes.
Dr. Rowan?
Yes.
Mr. Sheridan?
Abstain.
Mr. Casey?
Yes.
Mr. Donahue?
Abstain.
6 affirmative, 2 abstentions, motion passes.
Thank you. Director Martinelli, 10J1, please.
Okay, the members of the Board of School Directors, City of Scranton, is a recommendation of the Personnel Committee that the following be approved. Be resolved that David Brzezinski is appointed as Principal of Whittier Annex, the former Nativity School. Salary commensurate with the Act 93 agreement.
Second.
So move.
Second.
Second.
On the question? Roll call, please.
Mr. Martinelli?
Yes.
Mr. McAndrew?
Yes.
Mrs. Oleski?
Yes.
Dr. Rowan?
Yes.
Mr. Sheridan?
Yes.
Mr. Casey?
Yes.
Mr. Donahue?
Yes.
Mr. Dwyer?
Yes.
8 affirmative.
10J2, we had a little discussion in the back. Are we pulling
Yes,
this?
I think we should pull this one or
Okay.
table it.
Let's-
Because I had a discussion with the superintendent, and I think he and Mrs. Mecca should get together and see how they can cover this with the personnel we already have.
Okay, could I have a motion to table then, please?
Motion to table?
Second.
On the question? Roll call, Mrs. Orr, please.
Mrs. Oleski?
Yes.
Dr. Rowan?
Yes.
Mr. Sheridan?
Yes.
Mr. Casey?
Yes.
Mr. Donahue?
Yes.
Mr. Dwyer?
Yes.
Mr. Martinelli?
Yes.
Mr. McAndrew?
Yes.
8 affirmative.
Director Donahue, 10M1, please.
Members of the Board of the School Directors of the City of Scranton, Buildings and Grounds Committee presents the following resolution for your consideration. Be it resolved that the district-wide system intrusion and fire alarm cellular migration project be approved as per the attached proposal submitted by TriGuard Security Systems. Cost of the project is $37,882, respectfully submitted.
Second.
On the question? None heard?
On the
Oh, I'm
question,
sorry.
that we covered this in building and grounds, and what this is, or Mr. Rizzo, you're probably better off to explain it.
The local phone companies, I checked in, the local phone companies are all going to digital signaling, and all of our buildings are analog, which is just like the old Apple. So in order to bring our systems up to the current code and be able to communicate with each other, this is the necessary project.
This also covers
Thank you.
with our file system.
Yeah.
Anyone else on the question? Roll call, please.
Dr. Rowan?
Yes.
Mr. Sheridan?
Yes.
Mr. Casey? Mr. Donahue?
Yes.
Mr. Dwyer?
Yes.
Mr. Martinelli?
Yes.
Mrs. Oleski?
Yes.
Mr. McAndrew?
Yes.
8 affirmative.
Once again, Mr. Director Donahue, 10M2, please.
Members of the Board of School Directors of the City of Scranton, the Buildings and Grounds Committee presents the following resolution for your consideration. Be it resolved that the proposal for fire alarm equipment project for the Lincoln Jackson Academy be approved. As per the attached quotation submitted by Tyco Integrated Security for an installation charge in the amount of $658.
On the question? I'm sorry, second that, please.
Second.
I apologize. On the question? None heard? Roll call, please.
Mr. Sheridan?
Yes.
Mr. Casey?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Mr. Whiting?
Yes.
Mr. Martelli?
Yes.
Mrs. Gillespie?
Yes.
Dr. Lewin? Mr. McAndrew?
Yes.
Eight affirmative.
Before adjournment, I would like to read a statement, if I may.
Under new business?
Under new business?
Yes, okay. Under new business?
I'd
Yes.
actually like to make a motion to accept the resignation of Mrs. McWigan tonight.
Second?
On the question? Roll call, please.
Mr. Casey?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
No.
Mr. Whiting?
Yes.
Mr. Martelli?
Yes.
Mrs. Gillespie?
Yes.
Dr. Lewin?
Yes.
Mr. Sheridan?
Yes.
Mr. McAndrew?
No.
Six affirmative, two negative, motion passed.
Any other new business? Thank you. May I like to read a statement, please. At the close of this meeting, I'm respectively resigning as president of the Scranton School Board. Due to the current makeup of this board, I believe my ability to be an effective leader will be greatly diminished. I love this district and want to focus my attention on supporting the administration, teachers, students, and parents as we work to improve student achievement. Should the makeup and priorities of this board change in the future, I would gladly step up to the challenge of leading this board. Thank you. Motion for adjournment?
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
Second.